BooktUbe! Welcome back to the Babbling Bee. I'm Taylor, and I'm doing middle grade March. And I just wanted to do a little bit of a check-in, slash tell you about something that has kind of been a side effect of this middle grade March for me, because of a book that I just finished. So, I just finished reading, Enchanted by Gail, Carson, Levine, which I have read before, but it had been well over 10 years since my first reading of this book. And I just had such a wonderful time reading it, which I honestly wasn't really expecting to. When I first started it, I kind of thought this will be fine, I will enjoy it. But I just forgot how wonderful it was. The prose is so warm and inviting and funny and just so well done, and it retains that feeling of being a fairy tale. Like, it's familiar, because it's a retelling, but it also felt so fresh and new, and it had its own, like, kind of unique spirit. And I was also very pleasantly surprised to find so much difference in this from the film Enchanted, which, being a millennial, I watched a lot as a child. And yeah, like, the differences that are in this book were just very, very nice. The kind of friendship between Ella and the prince was much more long-standing. Like, it was an ongoing thing from the time of their childhood, and that was just so nice. Mandy, the fairy godmother, was so wonderful, and Ella's interest and affinity for languages was lovely to read, and Gail Carson Levine just does such a lot of work with languages in this book that I completely forgot about, and that was very cool. The sisters are hard to take. The stepsisters in this book were difficult to deal with. Oh my gosh, I was stressing, but it was just lovely overall, and it was such a delight to reread this, and it got me thinking that I am just feeling, in general, a sad lack of middle grade fairy tales / fantasy / medieval vibes books in my reading life. I used to read stuff in this vein all the time when I was a kid, and I think it just brought so much warmth and light and beauty and hope and joy and a sense of, like, bravery and courage to my life, and I miss that. I miss reading middle grade fairy tales. And so I just decided that I need to make this a more concentrated effort in my reading life going forward. I made a Google Doc. I color-coded it. And in that Google Doc, I prioritized... I'm going to put this down. I don't need to hold this up anymore. Also, I have my tea in my Let's Stay Home mug, which is making me very happy. It's Irish breakfast, if you're wondering, with a little bit of sugar and milk. So now you know. So I, in the Google Doc, I color-coded it, and I added books in there that I have never read. Anything that is under this umbrella of the fairy tale or fantasy or medieval vibe. Anything that would be a reread for me, I put in orange in the document, and then anything that is a book that I already own that's already on my shelves, I put in green, so that I can try to prioritize those. I'm really trying to focus on what I already own in terms of my reading this year, and probably for the next couple of years as well. Having said that, I am going to buy some middle grade fairy tale fantasy books, just because there's a few gaps, and there's things that I would really like to have in my rotation for this kind of wheelhouse of middle grade fiction. So what I'm going to do today is talk to you about some of my favorite books that are in this category, this very loose category that I'm thinking. And then I'm going to share with you the books that I already have that I think would fit into this category, so that I can just be thinking about prioritizing some of those this year. Ideally, I would like to read 1 to 2 middle grade books every month, and that doesn't always happen. I'm just always longing to read more middle grade, but I also love adult literature and nonfiction and stuff. So it's just something that I always want to have more time for, but I also need to make time for it. So I'm just aiming to kind of adjust the ratio in my reading life a little bit with middle grade and try to include more. But specifically, I would like to start incorporating more of the books in this fairy tale, fantasy, or medieval vibes category. So please let me know in the comments as I go through these books if you've read any of these and enjoyed them, or I would really love to hear your recommendations or suggestions of anything in this category of middle grade that you have read and loved, because I will add them to my Google Doc. And yeah, okay. So starting out with things that I have already read and loved, I'm not going to explain these really. I'm just going to go through this list because I have quite a big stack of ones that I want to read, and I'll spend more time on those. But The Two Princesses of Bamarre by Gail, Carson, Levine. This was my one true love of a book when I was in elementary school. I read it so much, and I still love it, and I am actively having to resist the temptation to reread it right now because I want to read Fairest by Gail, Carson, Levine, which I've never read, and it's part of this, it's not a direct sequel or anything. These are all 3 of the books that I think are kind of connected together in this little series are distinct stories with their own characters and kingdoms and stuff, but Fairest is usually grouped among these, and I haven't read that one, so that's one that I'm going to buy because I'm just in the mood for Gail, Carson, Levine and her fairy tales right now. But this is a wonderful book. If you've never read it, please give it a try. And then we have The Beatryce Prophecy by Kate DiCamillo. This is one that I would put in the medieval vibes category. That's a very loose, very casual category. Don't quiz me on it. I'm just making that up because it fits with, I don't know, in my head it just works because it's not fantasy. It is set either in the medieval period itself or in something that vaguely resembles the medieval period, but it's not directly stated, which is, I think, more the case with The Beatryce Prophecy. This is a Kate DiCamillo. I love everything about it, as I do most of her books. So yeah, this would be one of my favorites in the medieval vibes category of middle grade. And then all the rest of these books are just a bunch of Shannon Hale. So I just realized I put them a little bit out of order. So let me fix that. I'm going to take a sip of tea and then put my tea down. Okay. So first of all, we have the Books of Bayern by Shannon Hale. I don't have the dust jackets anymore for these hardcover ones, but this is just a absolutely beloved series for me. I really need to reread it because most of the time I just end up rereading the first 2 and then I don't reread the final 2 books in the series. But I really do enjoy all 4 of these books. It's just been a really long time since I have spent time on these last 2. But yeah, The Goose Girl in particular is one of my favorite books ever of all time. And it is based on the fairy tale, The Goose Girl. And it is just such an enchanting and beautiful world. I have yet to find anything really that matches the beauty of Shannon Hale's prose especially in The Goose Girl. If I could find more books that felt like this, I would read them. So please tell me if you have anything that gave you Goose Girl vibes. Also, I miss these covers so much. This is one of my favorite book covers ever. It's just, I love everything about it, and I think this image, like the folktale like art style, it just captures what this book is so perfectly. The new covers drive me crazy. Some of them, there's a couple of newer editions that have come out. One of them is worse than the others, but I wish we could go back to like middle grade book covers that looked like paintings and that were like actual illustrations. This is just a problem that plagues me constantly in our world today. But anyway, and then the Princess Academy books by Shannon Hale. I love Princess Academy. This is one of those newly like CGI looking covers that I object to, but I needed a new copy. I lend these out a lot. I have lent out multiple copies of Princess Academy. So the old cover art of these I much prefer, but oh well, this is a nice new paperback that's in really good shape. I really want to reread this now that I'm talking about it. It's been a long time. I have read the second one, but that's the only one that I have ever read other than this first one. So if you've read all of the Princess Academy books, let me know what you thought. I don't really feel that compelled to read all of them, but I would at least like to reread the first two at some point in the near future. So yeah, love Princess Academy. And then Book of 1,000 Days is one that it's a Shannon Hale book that I don't hear as many people talk about, but I absolutely loved it. It is on my list to reread for middle grade March, or my middle grade spring reading plan, because I'm kind of spreading out my middle grade March reading over March, April, and May. That's my cat. That's why I keep looking over, because he's being he's in a mischievous mood, so you might see him pop up in the video. Sorry for any noise that he's making. There he is. Can you see him? I just made some room on my bookshelves while I was moving books around, and now he thinks that space was made specifically for him. Book of 1,000 Days is a lovely, lovely book. This edition has some beautiful black and white illustrations in it. And it tells the story of a like handmaiden to a princess who's been banished to a tower for 7 years. It's epistolary. It's written in diary entries from Dashti, the maid to the princess, and I just absolutely adored it. So Shannon Hale is like basically the foundation of my middle grade fairy tale loves in life. So those are all the books that are kind of inspiring me as I go forth on this journey of looking for more books in this particular middle grade umbrella. So now let me get into the ones that I have that would fit within this umbrella for me. And I'm not going to be reading all of these like in the immediate future. This is like over the course of the next year or two, I would like to prioritize these books, plus a few more that I'm not going to tell you about in this video because I don't own them currently. I'm trying to think. Magic, the first Septimus Heap book by Angie Sage, would be in this list. There's a book series called Fable Haven, or the first one is called Fable Haven. I would like to read those. So there's a bunch of these that are in my Google Doc. I don't have them here, so I'm not going to tell you about them today. But let's talk about the ones that I do have. So first of all, we have Matilda Bone by Karen Cushman. I read, can I reach it? I can reach it. When I was in elementary school, I read The Midwife's Apprentice over and over again by Karen Cushman. This was one of my like repeat checkouts at my elementary school library. And I just found it absolutely fascinating. It is the story of an abandoned orphan child who becomes apprentice to the village midwife. And you know, it's coming of age, self-actualization, all of the good middle grade things, but the setting was just so rich, and this was one of my first books that I read that made me think about domestic history, which is not a term that I would have known at the time, but you know, the history of home and family and cooking and healing and all those things of daily life. I just found fascinating in this book. And so I would like to read Matilda Bone, and also Grayling's Song by Karen Cushman is on my list as well, but I don't have that one yet. This one I think is going to be slightly gruesome. I read the foreword by Adam Gidwitz, and he said there's some gross stuff in here, but that because Karen Cushman is masterful, it is a masterful piece of work, and I'm looking forward to it. It tells the story of Matilda, who is highly educated, especially for a girl in medieval times. She is sent to the workshop of Red Peg the Bone Setter in Blood and Bone Alley to serve as an apprentice. In Peg's domain, nothing matters but earthly pursuits, such as healing the injured, but Matilda doesn't know the first thing about buying food and lighting a fire, let alone setting bones. How can she flourish in such a place? Does she even want to? And it also says she has she's been taught to occupy herself with spiritual matters, rising above worldly concerns. So I'm always interested in this particular subgenre of this category, in how the religious or the spiritual intersects with the mundane things of daily life. So yeah, Karen Cushman is most certainly on my list. And then Howl's Moving Castle by Diana Wynne Jones. Fairytale, fantasy, basically a classic at this point. And I've never read it, although I have seen the movie. So that is definitely on my list. Fly By Night by Frances Hardinge. I read this when I was in junior high, but I have almost no memory of it. I just always remembered this cover. This cover just stayed in my mind for some reason. So I found this at a used bookstore a few years ago, and I was like, oh, I have to get that because I really enjoyed it. It has just left my memory. So it says 12-year-old Mosca Mai hasn't got much. Her cruel uncle keeps her locked up in his mill, and her only friend is her pet goose, Saracen, who will bite anything that crosses his path. But she does have one small, rare thing, the ability to read. So I won't say any more than that, but this would be in the medieval vibes category. It might not be set in the medieval period at all. It gives me that vibe, so we're gonna go with it. And then we have Snow White and Rose Red, which I just remembered. There is another Snow White retelling that I have read and loved. I think it's on one of my other bookshelves. But I'll put it in the description box below. It's a more recent one. I read it last year or the year before and really enjoyed it. So I'll put that one in the description down below. But this one, Snow White and Rose Red, is by Patricia C. Wrede. Look at that vintage cover. So I guess, this is part of the Fairytale series. Published by Tor Books, which is the same publishing company that published Daughter of the Forest and that series, I believe. Big fantasy publisher. So maybe I need to look into their Fairytale series. But yeah, I am. Oh, that font is so small. The font is so tiny. Okay, well, I might have to get another edition of this because my eyes might not be able to handle this one. But just a classic fairytale retelling. And then Katherine Called Birdy, another Karen Cushman. I know this was made into a film, which I'm not particularly interested in, but I do want to read this because I never got to it as a child. So that's another medieval vibes one. And then The Lost Kingdom of Bamarre. If you have read this, please tell me about it. This is obviously kind of tricky territory for me because it is meant to be the sequel to The Two Princesses of Bamarre. And that makes me both really interested in it and also nervous in case I don't love it as much. But I think it's set in a different place. It's set in the same kingdom, but concerns entirely different people, I think. So, yeah, I'm definitely very intrigued by this one, and we'll see what I think of it when I get to it. And then this has been on my shelf for several years now, and I have yet to get to it, but it is A String in the Harp. Has anybody read this? I feel like I have never seen a single person talk about this book. I'm really interested in it, though. It says, when 15-year-old Jen Morgan flies to Wales to spend Christmas with her family, she's not expecting much from the holiday. A year after her mother's sudden death, her father seems preoccupied by the teaching job that has brought him and the younger children to Wales for the year. Her brother Peter is alternately hostile and sullen, and her sister Becky misses Jen terribly. Then Peter tells Jen he has found a strange artifact, a harp key, that shows him pictures from the life of I'm going to say this wrong. Taliesin, the great bard whose life in 6th century Wales has been immortalized in legend. At first, Jen doesn't believe him, but when the key's existence and its strange properties become known to the wider world, the Morgans must act together against a threat to the key and to their family itself. And one of the blurbs on this says it is a blend of fantasy and realism. And I'm just intrigued. It's a Newbery Honor book. So, yeah, this is by, I don't remember if I said the author's name. It's by Nancy Bond. So, if you've read this, do let me know what you think. But I'm very intrigued. And it has a map at the beginning. So, we love a map at the beginning. Okay. And then we have Zell by Donna Jo Napoli. And I'm pretty sure this is a Rapunzel retelling. Yes, mother-daughter, a noble youth obsessed with the girl's beauty, a mother who will do anything to keep them apart. So, I also just love this cover. Again, I really miss the middle grade covers that at least looked more like illustrations. And yeah, this looks really lovely. This is a high priority one for me just because I'm really into the fairy tale mood right now. And then The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. I've heard very good things about this from multiple people. Every year, the people of the Protectorate leave a baby as an offering to the witch who lives in the forest to keep her from terrorizing their town. But the witch, Zahn, is really kind and gentle. She shares her home with a wise swamp monster and a perfectly tiny dragon. Zahn rescues the children and delivers them to welcoming families on the other side of the forest. One year, she accidentally feeds a baby Moonlight, filling the ordinary child with extraordinary magic. Zahn decides she must raise this girl, whom she calls Luna, as her own. As Luna's 13th birthday approaches, her magic begins to emerge with unpredictable consequences, just when it's time for Jean to collect another child. Meanwhile, a young man is determined to free his people by killing the witch. And a volcano, dormant for centuries, rumbles within the earth. So yeah, this is a high priority one for me as well. I really need to get on this. I know so many people have loved it. And then, this is technically a reread, but I do not remember it at all. So it is going to feel like I've never read it before. And that is The Dark Hills Divide by Patrick Carman. I know I read this in elementary school. 12-year-old Alexa is spending another summer in Bridewell with her father. She looks forward to exploring the old lodge where she stays each year with its cozy library. We love that. And maze of passages and rooms. She's also eager to finally solve the mystery of what lies beyond the immense walls that were built to keep out an unnamed evil that lurks in the forests and the dark hills, an evil the townspeople are still afraid of. As Alexa begins to unravel the truth about what lies outside the protective barrier she's lived behind all her life, she discovers a strange and ancient enchantment. Armed with an unexpected new power, Alexa exposes a danger that could destroy everything she holds dear and change the land of Elion forever. Also love this cover. So that would be in the fairy tale fantasy category. And then The Dark is Rising by Susan Cooper. I meant to read this all of last year and didn't get to it. So it's going on the TBR again. Does anybody know, do I need to read the book that is technically number 1 in this series before I read this one? I feel like I have read mixed opinions about that. So I ended up just getting the second one because I think a lot of people start with this one and it's like fine to do that. But if you know better, please let me know in the comments. But this says the cold December day before Will Stanton's birthday brings a series of strange events, a cryptic gift, a terrifying flock of birds, and a deep cold fear emerging from the darkness that Will can't quite explain. The next day, his 11th birthday, is also midwinter, and with it, Will's world is suddenly changed with an astonishing discovery, that he is the last of the Old Ones, the immortals who fight to keep the powers of evil, or the dark, from taking over the world. At once, Will is plunged into a quest for the 6 magical signs that will one day aid the Old Ones in the final battle between the light and the dark. But the dark has already sent out the Rider, evil cloaked in black, mounted on a midnight stallion, and has far worse in store. Will must find the 6 great signs, wood, bronze, iron, water, fire, and stone, before the dark begins its dreadful rise. Yeah, I'm very intrigued by this series. It feels very wintry to me, so I'm probably not going to prioritize this one soon, but I would really like to get to that this year. And then we have Impossible Creatures by Katherine Rundell. Been hearing a lot of buzz about this recently. This is a beautiful hardcover edition with illustrations that I got last year. I don't get excited about dragon books, so I will just say that. Dragons, very boring to me by and large. The most interesting dragon that I've read in a book is in The Two Princesses of Bamarre, because she's very human-like in personality. Like, she's very talkative and has a very strong personality, and I just found her very fascinating. The concept of people having dragons and stuff is just generally not very interesting to me. So we'll see what I think of this. So Christopher learns about the Archipelago, a cluster of unmapped islands where magical creatures of every kind have thrived for thousands of years until now. And then he also meets this girl named Mal, who is on the run and needs his help. And they embark on an adventure racing from island to island, searching for someone who can explain why the magic is fading and magical creatures are suddenly dying. So yeah, I am intrigued to see what I think of that one. And then finally, we have Greenglass House by Kate Milford. And this one feels kind of like it's a combination of like a folk tale, but also a mystery, with maybe some adventure in there too. So I don't really know what subcategory I would put this in, but it says it's wintertime at Greenglass House. The creaky smuggler's inn is always quiet during this season, and 12-year-old Milo, the innkeeper's adopted son, plans to spend his holidays relaxing. But on the first icy night of vacation, out of nowhere, the guest bell rings. Then it rings again and again. Soon Milo's home is bursting with odd, secretive guests, each one bearing a strange story that is somehow connected to the rambling old house. As objects go missing and tempers flare, Milo and Meddy, the cook's daughter, must decipher clues and untangle the web of deepening mysteries to discover the truth about Greenglass House and themselves. So, this just looks charming and delightful, and I'm interested to see what I think of it. So that is my stack of just the books that I own already on my shelves that I would place in this very loosey-goosey category of middle grade fantasy, fairy tales, or medieval vibes books. And again, these are all inspired by some of my favorite books of all time by Shannon, Hale, Gail, Carson, Levine, and Kate DiCamillo, and Karen Cushman. So if you have anything that you would put in this category, please let me know in the comments down below. I hope you're having a lovely middle grade March, and I will see you for another video soon. See you later.